Today we're going to be talking about the truth behind buying new construction property in the Seattle, Washington market. If you've been looking at those beautiful new homes and just dreaming about moving into something that is ready to go, never been lived in, looks amazing in the photos, then you might be wondering which new construction development is going to be right for you. In this video, I'm going to break down some of the pros and cons, the reasons that many people love new construction, and some of the warning signs about what you might be missing out on behind the glitz and glamour to make sure that if you do go that direction, you're making a smart choice. Hi, my name is Emily Cressey. I'm a local Seattle real estate agent, and I would love to help you find your next home, whether it's new construction property or something used. We can also talk about the transition between moving from where you are now, whether it's a rental, a property that you need to sell out of state, or a property that you need to sell in state, and make sure that we have a progression in mind that will make that transition as smooth and profitable for you as possible. I invite you to join me by subscribing to this channel or visiting me on my website, homeproassociates.com, where we have lots more PDFs, videos, articles, and ways for you to get involved and get in touch if you have any questions about buying the new construction home that's right for you. First, I want to acknowledge that new construction homes can be a beautiful fit for a lot of people, and there are definitely some cases where they make a lot of sense. One of the reasons that they're so popular right now in today's market is because we have relatively few homes for sale. Inventory is down because of how low interest rates were during those COVID years. We have a lot of people sitting in homes longer because they're enjoying a very low interest rate payment. And they're not choosing to move because that would mean giving up that low interest rate and moving into something more expensive. Now, of course, there are always people who are going to have to move. Their family is growing, maybe they're downsizing, maybe they have a new job, or they're moving to be closer to family. People move all the time, but we're just seeing a little bit fewer homes transacting in the market. What that means is that it's an opportunity for home builders, and new construction homes are making up a larger percentage of overall sales right now. In some studies I've seen as high as 30% of overall sales are going to new construction. So that means that it's a very important and increasing part of the overall home sale environment. Now, one thing to be aware of is that home builders start building these homes years in advance. They're always buying land, developing the land, getting all the permits that can take years and years. And so by the time they have prepared a home to sell to you, they have already invested quite a bit of money into it. They're investing in this development process all the time, and they have a certain amount of money that they're looking to make, generally 20 to 30% of the overall price of the home. That being said, there's also value to them in being consistent, keeping the flow of properties happening, keeping their crews busy, just chunking along. And sometimes they will sell homes at a discount if they feel that they need to reduce the price in order to move the property. So when you're looking at new construction homes, and especially if the market is slower, maybe it's a bad time of year, winter, that type of thing, maybe interest rates have gone up or especially high, maybe for whatever reason, the buying sentiment isn't as strong. We often see things like that in election years. So whatever it is, if the homes are not selling as quickly as the builder thinks they should be, they may start to offer you incentives. So as your agent, when we go to these new construction properties, one of the things I'll be digging into on your behalf is what incentives they're offering. Frequently, this looks like a couple of different things. Number one is reducing the interest rate of your loan. So especially if you work with their on-site lender who they have a business relationship with, if you work with that lender, the builder will often pay some amount of money to reduce your loan costs. For example, I'm involved in buying a property right now that I'm going to be using as an investment property. It's a D.R. Horton home, which is a big builder. And they have offered to buy down my interest rate as an investor. I normally pay more than the normal going rate. So if the normal going rate right now is about 6.5%, as an investor, even with 25% down payment, I'd be expected to pay about 7.5% interest. What I'm looking at, what they're offering me, is to get the interest rate down to 5.9% if I use their in-house lender. This allows me to lock in that lower price loan for the long term and makes the house much more affordable for me to hold on to as an investment because I can increase my cash flow by renting it out for more than I'm paying in the mortgage. That's not easy to find right now because interest rates are higher. So number one is that we're going to ask about how we can get those lower interest rates. Number two is closing costs. And when we want to find out if we can get the closing costs down. So typically in a normal real estate transaction, the buyer and the seller are going to split traditional closing costs, which could be document stamps, recording fees. They could be fees that go to your lender. They could be appraisals and escrow company fees, title insurance fees, those types of things. These are all paid at the time of the closing of the sale when the money all changes hands, and that's why it's called closing costs. But builders will often have special deals because they do so much business with these title companies. They've negotiated discounted rates and they can pass some of those savings on to you. In addition, they may be willing to issue you a credit, like a $1,500 credit, something like that, which again, I'm getting on this D.R. Horton house right now because they want to make it easier for you to get into the property. One of their goals in a lot of cases is to make homes affordable and approachable for first-time homebuyers who have squeezed all the money that they could just to get their 3% or 5% down payment, or even a 0% down payment if it's a VA loan, and they may not have thousands of additional dollars to put toward all of these other costs. So they're trying to make it easy for you to get in the door. And that's why helping with financing and helping with closing costs can be really helpful. The last thing you can ask about is getting a discount on the price. But this is more challenging because builders don't like to see their prices go down because that affects the other sales in the development. Let's say that there's a new development going in with 100 properties. Often these will be built in phases. Phase one, first 30 properties, phase two, next 30 properties, and so on. And as they build and sell the homes, they usually start out less expensive and become more and more expensive over time. And part of the reason is for this, based on how quickly things sell, they will bump up the prices 5,000, 10,000, 5%, 10%, and see how much they can get the prices up. What's the maximum price that the market will stand and still keep the houses selling quickly. But if they start dropping the prices, then it makes people who already bought their home feel badly. They say, it's the same property. You sold it to that guy for $20,000 less than you sold it to me. That makes them upset. And also when they go to justify the higher cost of the homes in phase three, the appraiser is going to look and say, buddy, your prices were a little bit lower in phase two. They're going to be that much higher in phase three. So they're their own comps and they want to see high prices on the comps. If you do see prices starting to come down or offering discounts, it's usually for a short period of time. You have to buy within a 1 or 2 week window to take advantage of that discount. And otherwise the deal is gone and you are not locked into anything. On the other side of the spectrum, when homes are selling with multiple offers and selling very quickly, it can be frustrating for home buyers who have a lot of uncertainty about whether they will get the home that they want. Typically, these developments have 4 or 5 different floor plans, maybe a 2,000 square foot floor plan, a 2,500 square foot floor plan, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, primary bedroom suite on the main floor, different things like that might be important to certain buyers. So they're only looking at 1 or 2 floor plans that really meet their needs. And so if that floor plan is popular, which oftentimes there's one that seems especially popular to everybody, then they're already spoken for and the builder will have a wait list and they'll say, hey, when we build another one of this particular floor plan, we'll call you and then you'll need to make a decision very quickly. You'll need to decide within a 12 to 24 hour period, whether you're going to take that or else we're going to move to the next guy on the list. So you might be waiting and waiting for weeks or months, to get a call and be asked to make what feels like a very rushed decision. So that can be one way to get your foot into the door into some of these more popular developments, but also stressful, especially since prices tend to go up over time. I've seen where, they say, hey, the last house we have was the model home. It has a lot of upgrades. We put in granite countertops and did everything fancy, so it's going to cost even more than the one that you looked at. Plus, values are going up all the time. It's more expensive. So when you started off looking at a $700,000 home, now it's become an $800,000 home, and you're looking at it at a different period of time. Sometimes it just is hard to make that decision, and it can feel like it's not the good deal it initially seemed to be when you first fell in love with the property. Another thing to be aware of when you're looking at new construction homes is the schedule of build out is somewhat flexible and can be disrupted, typically slowed down by problems in the supply chain, problems with contractors not showing up on time, weather issues, and so forth. So, for example, if you're building a townhouse, you might put an offer on it when it's almost done, when it's already complete, and pretty closely to when you can move in. Or they might be doing what's called a pre-sale, which is, hey, we haven't even broken ground for this yet. It's not going to be ready for 6 to 9 months. You put in a $10,000 deposit now, and in 9 months, your home will be ready and we'll sell it to you. But that 9 months could turn into 12 months. It could turn into 2 years, according to some of these contracts that I've seen with the builders. So it can be stressful, especially if you're making plans to end your lease or to sell your current home, to not know with clarity when your new property will be ready for you. It's very important when you're evaluating new construction property to bring your agent with you. Number one, you need to bring them with you to the site the first time you visit. Don't be tempted to just pop in when you see those cute pink flags as you're driving around the neighborhood. If you register yourself and give your name and email without your agent present, your agent will be completely cut out of the transaction. You will be unrepresented, and you will have a very sharp and experienced salesperson as the only person who's talking to you, and they represent the builder, not you. So make sure that you have an agent who's representing your interests. It does not cost you any extra, and make sure that you bring them with you when you first register to the site. Some people say, I don't want to get called and harassed. If you guys don't want to get called and harassed, put down my name and number. Just let me know, like, hey, we're listing you as our agent when we go visit these sites because we don't want to get called and harassed by the salesperson. So that's fine. You're welcome to do that. I'd appreciate if you would do that, and I would be more than happy to represent you, whether or not we have a chance to meet before that happens. So please do feel free to do that. But for best results, bring your agent with you, or have your agent call ahead and say, hey, my client is coming over and I'd like to register them. It becomes very territorial between the agent. I mean, like, it's kind of sad, but that's the business, and it sucks for your agent, especially if they've been driving you around looking at all these homes, and then you end up registering and buying without them, without intending to burn them and cut them out like that. But that would be what would happen to them. And so it's frustrating for everybody. That being said, your agent is going to help you with a couple of different things. Number one is not getting snookered by the on-site agent. But number two, when we're going over the contract, there are actually non-standard contracts here. So typically real estate agents representing buyers and sellers use the same contracts that have been written and reviewed by lawyers who work for the Northwest Multiple MLS. They're compliant with all of the Washington state laws, and everybody is very familiar with how they work so that they can advise you well on them. These builders, however, are a horse of a different color. They've had their own attorneys write their own contracts, and who do you think the contracts favor? Yes, the builder. So you need to have your real estate agent, and you need to choose a real estate agent who's actually going to read the contract and advise you on what it says, because with these things, you often lose access to protections that you would normally have. A big one for people is the financing contingency. So you want to understand, if I sign up for this and I can't get the loan, like, what do I do? Do I get my $10,000 earnest money back or not? If I sign up for this and the builder doesn't complete the house on time, what do I do? This happened to a colleague of mine recently who had a client who was buying new construction. It was not ready on the date of closing. They were supposed to be making some updates and repairs after closing. That didn't get done. They were supposed to release $20,000 that was held in escrow when the repairs did not get done on time. That hasn't been released yet. It can really become a kettle of fish, worms, anyway, a yucky stew kettle of problems. And you don't want that to happen when you're so excited about buying your house. Everything looks great, but you still need to have someone to represent you, especially when things go wrong. It all seems great at the outset, but if and when things go wrong, you need to know what to do and have someone to advise you in that case. Similarly, you want to have your own private inspection for the property. And that's not necessarily standard on the contracts either. Typically, they have what they call like a home orientation, where they sort of say, here's the hot water heater, here's the furnace, this is how you turn on the garbage disposal. And that's great and it's helpful. But what you want is somebody who's going to really look at the quality of the construction, make sure that they're using the right type of materials, make sure that there's not water in the basement, make sure there's not lumps on the roof, that the flashing has been installed correctly. And you would be amazed at how many things are wrong and done improperly in a new construction home. And that's what I have I call him an OCD inspector. He's very nitpicky, which is what you want as a buyer. He's very nitpicky. So he's going to find everything that's wrong. He's going to grade it kind of a red light, yellow light, green light system so that you know how severe the issue is. And he's going to take pictures and talk it through with us so that we can then convey to the builder which items need to be remedied before we pay him, before we close, before we take possession, because we don't want something that's just kind of complete but not done well. And then in addition, we want to look into the warranty that's provided. In Washington state, builders are required to provide a warranty, but whether or not it's a strong warranty, whether or not it goes beyond 12 months, what are they going to do? Do they have a system in place to correct items? Because there's almost always some sort of cracking, some settling as the house kind of settles in and gets used to itself. The 2x4s continue drying, they're organic materials, like everything just kind of sighs. And sometimes that can create a little crack in the drywall. Sometimes it means there's dust in the furnace and the gas isn't lighting correctly, or there's a variety of things that can and do go wrong. So we just need to make sure we know whose responsibility that is and what's going to happen in order for those things to get repaired. And then I will also add, some builders are a lot better at this than others. You will walk through a model home and you will see everything installed, all the appliances, all the furniture, fences, lawn, landscaping, everything looks beautiful, just right out of Instagram. But what does the contract say that you are actually getting in your property? Will there be grass in the yard, or will it just be dirt? Will there be a fence? Will there be an automatic sprinkler system? Will there be any kind of other plants or trees or any kind of a landscaping package included? These are good things to know. What about on the interior? Will there be any kind of blinds or window treatments? Will there be a security system? Will there be appliances, for crying out loud? I see builders selling a home with no refrigerator. And it's like, well, you built the house, but people can't move in. They can't live here. Washer dryer is very commonly excluded from the sale of the home. So you really need to be on point and know what to look for so that you're not moving into what you think is a turnkey property only to find out that you need to spend $10,000 more to get all this stuff in here and make it move-in ready. These are things that they don't really highlight at the sales location as they're walking you through their quick and easy contract, right? So that's some of the reasons that you need your own agent and your own representation. Let's take a look at kind of, the pros and cons now. One of the biggest cons or challenges in the Seattle market is actually finding new construction in a location and a price range that you're interested in. If you're kind of imagining the giant Leave It to Beaver neighborhood, the homeowner association protected look and feel, you can find that, but it's typically smaller. 7 homes, 10 homes, 20 homes, that type of development is relatively large for this area, and it can be accomplished by buying 2 or 3 lots that are together and building them. But we are so locked in on our land. We just do not have these big acreages of land available to do sprawling developments unless you get out into the countryside. So we can take you out into the countryside, into Black Diamond, into Arlington, into some of these places that are more than an hour away from downtown Seattle and Bellevue, and we can find you a beautiful home, brand new, in a suburb of your choice at a reasonable price. But it's going to be quite far away. So I just want you to know that that is one of the trade-offs. And I really want you to, especially if you see ads or anything for new construction, look up the location and see how far of a drive that's going to be from where you're living right now or where you plan to be working if you're relocating here. Another option would be to look at either small developments. Like I said, I've seen a lot in Bothell lately that are like 5 to 7 houses, something like that. But we can also look for what they call spot lots, which is where they've just bought a lot and they're building one home. So I have a client who just sold about a 1/4 acre building lot in Kenmore, and he sold it to a builder. So he sold it for about $425,000. And the builder is going to build a home there that's going to sell for $1.5 million. And so that's great. And it's going to be a great deal for everybody. They're going to love it. There are other $1.5 million homes in the area, but around the lot is kind of Farmer Dan on one side and kind of an older rental house on another side, a couple of split levels, like doing the flag lot thing over here. So it doesn't have the uniformity to the neighborhood that so many people really value. It's a little bit more of a mishmash, and especially in locations where you can actually find a lot and buy it for cheap enough to build a home. You can't buy one that already has an $800,000 home, scrape the home and build $1.5 million home because the economics don't work. So you're typically buying these lots in areas that are a little bit less nice, a little bit more rural, kind of those infill locations, and you're just going to have one nice new home, but not necessarily surrounded by a similar product. And then finally, what I want to encourage you to think about, especially if you're new to the area, is looking at some attached residential property. This would be condominiums and townhomes that are newly built. And one of the reasons I want you to look at this is affordability. They tend to be less expensive. A new construction home within an hour of Seattle is probably going to be in the ballpark of $1 million or up. If you want something that's closer to $500,000 to $900,000, I would encourage you to look at townhomes and attached homes. And then condominiums, typically we think of condominiums as like apartment style, where maybe it's a high rise of some kind. And we definitely do have those high-rise condominiums in downtown Seattle and downtown Bothell. Those are in excess of $1 million as well in many cases, although you can find them for more affordable, like $300,000, $400,000, especially on lower floors of otherwise nice buildings. And that can be a great option when you're, wanting to walk to work. Maybe you're traveling back and forth from Seattle to another location where you also live and work. And so this is just kind of your home away from home. You want to just have a quick little walking commute back and forth to the hospital or the office building. These buildings have really nice gyms. They'll often have a pool or a hot tub. They will have sky decks looking out over the Puget Sound or over the city. Some very nice luxury buildings that you can get into for a range of prices depending on the size and location of the unit that you choose. But also, again, watch out for the homeowners association. I had one listed last year. The price was about $1 million and the homeowners association was $1,000 per month. So in these luxury buildings, the fees, the cost of maintaining all of those amenities can actually raise the cost of living there quite a bit. Although typically on a less expensive unit, you're going to have a less expensive fee. So what I was going to be saying about condos and townhomes more in the suburbs, where there's actually a lot of new construction in downtown Seattle now, which is what brought it to mind. And there's an excess of inventory. They've built quite a bit of condos down there. They're having trouble selling them because with COVID, everybody started working from home and the city kind of emptied out. And also, let's be honest, there's a lot of homelessness and weird things going on in downtown Seattle now, which have made the street scene and the downtown lifestyle a little bit less desirable. So these condo people, they can't just leave it unbuilt or unfinished. They have to finish it and they have to sell it. And so they're working through all of that inventory, but it's going to take years for them to get through that. So if you want to bring cash and cut a good deal on a downtown condo, that's a place for new construction that you might not have thought of, but where deals are being made right now. For sure. I've heard of people getting $70,000 to $80,000 discounts on $1 million property. So that's happening. But as far as the suburbs, you're going to find homes that are very close together. And these might be detached homes where it lives like a single family home, but there's so many crammed into the space that it's, from a zoning perspective, each home does not have enough of a yard to meet the single family housing regulations. So they're calling it a condo, which allows, a larger number of properties to be built on the space available. So those are kind of single family home architecturally, but considered a condo. And they usually have smaller homeowners association dues, maybe $50 to $100 a month, to account for some of the insurance and public spaces and landscaping that they may cover. It varies to case by case basis. And then we will also see ones that are actually attached. So townhouses, row home type of things. These are very common in some of our funky urban areas like Fremont, Wallingford, Ballard, and also we're seeing them in Shoreline. A lot of the areas near the freeway, near the light rail stations, have been rezoned to allow for higher density housing. So in some of these 30-foot tall housing zoning areas, they can build 3 stories. And so that's what we're starting to see as kind of urban infill closer to the center of the road by I-5, by the light rail stops. So those can be a great solution. You're sharing walls, but you're not really going through hallways or doing much besides having a smaller yard to landscape and take care of there. I do want to caution you on some of those areas. Parking is very hard to come by. So if you're looking at urban development, some condos will come with 1 parking space deeded. Some will come with 0 parking spaces deeded, and those are usually priced $50,000 to $80,000 less. And some will come with 2. Some will even come with a garage underneath, but you're going to be in a higher price point in order to find that. And the last thing that I want to highlight as we talk today about new construction options for homes in Seattle area is this Washington state law that recently passed that basically is getting rid of any zoning that restricts housing to just be single family housing. Now every lot that could have had a house on it can have up to 4 units on it. And again, they're trying to move toward higher density, getting more people closer to the city, closer to the light rail, and not creating so much traffic and long drives in and out of the city to handle our growing population. So what we're starting to see is homes that did have a large backyard. We are now building what would have been considered a detached accessory dwelling unit. A little cabana in the back is now becoming an 800 to 1,000 square foot house, 1 or 2 stories high, depending on the footprint available, and oftentimes 2 bedrooms. They'll do bigger if they can, but that's a size that fits nicely in a lot of the backyards that we have around here. So while you might be moving into a neighborhood with a lot of single family homes, if you see this type of thing starting to happen, and we're seeing it more closer to the city, Ballard and the UW area, those types of things where housing is really at the highest premium, we're seeing the developer will buy the single family house. He may remodel the primary house or even build a new house there, and that might sell for $1 million. And then he'll build the smaller house in the backyard or whatever size he can get away with. And he will have 2 houses on the same lot. And he will say, this is a condominium association now, a 2-house condo. And he will sell those homes separately. So if you're sitting on a house, you might want to think about subdividing it or short platting it, or you might want to think about putting in a detached or accessory dwelling unit and condoizing that so you could sell those separately. But they do still sell for high prices in nice areas. You can get new construction or a new remodel, but you are sacrificing yard space and privacy to get into some of these premium locations at a slightly more modest price point. So I know this has been a long video. Thanks so much for sticking with me. We've gone through brand new construction and developments, spot lots, downtown condos, condos and townhomes in the urban areas. There's a lot to cover, and I want to make sure you get all your questions answered. So please feel free to reach out to me directly. I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm here to inform you. And if I know what you're looking for specifically, we can direct our conversation to answer your specific questions without going off into the weeds and things that are unrelated. So please feel free to call me or text me. You can also visit my website, homeproassociates.com. I'll look forward to meeting you there. I have all sorts of videos and PDFs. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I would love that, or ask your comments down below. I really try to get back to that, but the quickest way is to, what's this, call me? That's so 1985. Okay, you can text me. This means text me now. Is that what the kids are doing? Anyway, feel free to reach out, and until then, I will see you on the next video.